There's a video that is going around on Facebook and on YouTube. It's from ACT, so we're going to play the video. We'll stop it. We'll discuss. This video is sponsored by the Ben & Brothers brand new course, Expert Ownership. You can learn to own a business without it owning you. Stick around to the end of the video to find.
This video where I debunk systemic racism is brought to you by My Pillow. My Pillow, the only pillow that lets you sleep comfortably at night after acting like centuries of segregation and slavery did not exist.
Find out more details.
This is Jamal. Jamal is a boy who lives in a poor neighborhood. He has a friend named Kevin, who lives in a wealthy neighborhood. All of Jamal's neighbors are African American, and all of Kevin's neighbors are white. Because Jamal...
I can't believe that this video starts off with racism already. In America, you don't need to live with black people if you're living in a black neighborhood. That's the beauty of America, actually.
School district.
Let's not talk about redlining, though.
It's mostly funded by property taxes. His school is not very well funded. His classrooms are overcrowded, his teachers are underpaid, and he doesn't have access to high-quality tutors or extracurricular activities.
Poor neighborhood, just move. Lol. Just let's wait. Let's wait until he makes that argument.
His classrooms
This is, by the way, this is a common problem. He hasn't even made this argument yet, but I already know he's going to make it. I know what the fuck he's going to say. This is a very common way that debate lords operate, okay? No matter where they're coming from, no matter what their personal background is or what their personal beliefs are, debate lords always try to make ridiculous fallacies work by over-rationalizing that ridiculous fallacy.
What you'd want is something called school vouchers. You want people to be able to move away from their school districts. One of the chief reasons that Jamal is confined to his local public school is because of Democratic policy that has decided that you must go to school in the district where you live. And this
First of all, not even true. If we're talking about charter schools and voucher programs, it's not just a exclusively Republican policy. Since the 90s, Democrats have been huge advocates for charter schools as well. School choice is also a substitute for the actual issue. The actual issue itself is, as the ACT video correctly pointed out, underfunding in certain neighborhoods as a consequence of systemic racism and redlining. Underfunding certain neighborhoods is the real problem. You can't just turn around and say, yeah, you know, if you have a problem with your school, just go to another school, forehead. Well, what the fuck happens to the school that's underfunded? Do we just leave that behind? What about the hundreds of other people who are not going to be able to go to the other school? What about all the logistics of going to another school? I love this from the brilliant mind of Ben Shapiro, who also at one point said, oh, is your house gonna, global warming isn't that really big of a problem. Like, if you live near the water and the water levels are rising, just move. Just sell your house and move. Okay, Ben, thank you.
For the sake of argument, that all of the water levels around the world rise by let's say 5 feet over the next 100 years, say 10 feet by the next 100 years, and it puts all the low-lying areas on the coast underwater, right? Which, let's say all of that happens. You think that people aren't going to just sell their homes and move?
Just one small problem. Sell their houses to who, Ben? Fucking Aquaman!
Thank you for that incredible take back then, and thank you for the exact same take here. What about the school? What about the actual problem? Just leave that school behind. It doesn't matter if it gets worse now.
This is also why a lot of people have left lower income areas and moved out to higher income areas specifically for better public schools. So if you...
How is this the brilliant mind? How is this the top conservative mind, dude? How, like, it just really exposes how dumb conservatives are when they're like, oh, this guy is speaking facts and speaking very fast. So I am conditioned into thinking that he's actually brilliant. Like, he literally just said, just move, lol. Even 4 Cents community makes fun of the, if you're homeless, just buy a house, forehead, or if you're poor, just move into a rich neighborhood, lol, take. They have memified this. 4 Cent.
You want Jamal to have the same educational opportunities as Kevin. Perhaps you should have school vouchers for private schools, or perhaps you should have charter schools, which is what Mayor Bill de Blasio in New York is fighting against, or perhaps you should...
Love that. Again, charter schools, absolutely a part of playing a significant role in cutting the budgets of public education in this country. But a charter school is when you have a private school that does not have to have unions. Some of them do still have unions, but a private school with a private curriculum that gets subsidized by the public and has to have a quota of people that they have to educate, just like a public school would. But they're just not controlled by the local government. So that's what it is. It's a fake school. And also, on average, a thing that they won't mention, on average, is that they lead to awful education outcomes. One factor I will mention to you immediately is this insanely damning statistic that you're about to be very frustrated to hear. 1 out of every 9 black child in this country has an incarcerated parent. That number is 1 out of 23 for every Hispanic child. And that number is 1 out of 52, I believe, for every white child. So if you are truly worried about familial relationships in the nuclear family being destroyed, don't read Thomas Sowell, who tries to say, oh, it's just welfare policies. It's not. It's not welfare that has destroyed the nuclear family. It's actually systemic racism perpetrated by our criminal justice system that champions the same kind of racist outcomes that people were championing back in the fucking 50s and 60s, which was not that long ago, which Ben Shapiro, I'm sure, will say, oh, that's the past is the past. And talk about how, it's illegal. Racism is illegal, forehead. Great argument from Ben Shapiro that we are about to see. Just wait for Ben Shapiro to say, that's a classic dumbass Republican take. It's so stupid.
After the Civil War, many government agencies started to draw maps dividing cities into sections that were either desirable or undesirable for investment. This practice was called redlining, and it usually blocked off entire black neighborhoods from access to private and public investment. Banks and insurance companies used these maps for decades to deny black people loans and other services based purely on race. Historically speaking, owning a home and getting a college education is the easiest way for an American family to build wealth. But when Jamal's grandparents wanted
you mean 1550s? My bad. No, I absolutely mean 1950s. What? What do you think? Systemic discrimination against African Americans did not exist in 1950? What are you, crazy? My man said 1550s. Yeah, before America was founded. The redlining that was occurring in 1550. Thank you for the take there. Redlining existed illegally, I guess, or extra legally. Extrajudiciously, well into the 80s. That legacy of redlining still exists today.
If it seemed that banks were discriminating against black borrowers on the basis of they needed to have higher credit qualifications, what you would see is lower default rates from black clients of banks, from people who are borrowing money from banks in the black community. There are 0 studies that show any of this. That does not mean the banks
Just get married, forehead is also another famous Tommy Sowell take. Just get married, forehead. Black people are just not married. Why are they not married? Is marriage harder to get married if you are poorer? I don't know. Let's not talk about that. But most importantly, what about single parenthood in the African American community? I wonder if the racial inequality in the criminal justice system has anything to do with that. No, that 1 to 9 stat that I just gave you earlier. Remember that always.
When it comes to college education, it is also worth noting that, yes, there were many universities that did not allow black people to attend. Since the 1970s, the most prominent measure that has been used in order to admit black students to major universities across the country has been affirmative action, which actively discriminates against people who are not black in favor of black applicants, specifically by ensuring that black applicants don't have to have the same test scores or GPAs.
So not only do we have affirmative action that has solved the problem, it's made it worse for white people. Bullshit, okay? Affirmative action is a Band-Aid on a gaping wound. So I ask every single person who cries about how affirmative action works in this fucking country, one, did you know that the greatest beneficiaries of affirmative action are white women? I don't know if you knew that or not. Look it up. But 2, more importantly than that, if you want to not have affirmative action, then actually offer equality of opportunity to everyone in this country. Just offer equality of opportunity, forehead. Isn't that an American principle? I don't understand.
In order to get into those same schools. So not only has policy been corrected, it's been overcorrected in these areas.
Kevin's grandparents, on the other hand, got a low-interest loan to buy their first house.
Racism solved. Now the real racism is against the whites that are not being able to go to state universities or whatever the fuck his dumbass take is. No, it hasn't been overcorrected. it has not been overcorrected. What a psychotic take.
The biggest problem that we have in the United States right now is not a historic wealth gap. The biggest problem we have is an income gap in the United States. And there's some fascinating statistics surrounding this. There was a Harvard study recently that showed that black males who are growing up in the same household incomes as white males were actually underperforming their white male counterparts, even in high income neighborhoods. You would think that all of this might imply racism.
Oh, so racism destroyed. Oh, okay. Yeah, that's great. I love that. I love when they say like, well, actually, in one circumstance, the racial factor was somehow not as significant. So that means in the entirety of racism is destroyed. Oh, great. That's definitely not cherry-picked data from one study. What an idiotic take.
Which would suggest that there are other factors at play other than simple racism. Furthermore, the basic idea that
there's other factors at play than simple racism. Again, no one says that it's just racism, okay? Systemic racism, it's in the word, systemic. It's a structural force. No one is like personally be like, I'm going to do a racism today. No, you just exist in that racist system and you are either a beneficiary or you're not. It's that simple. And it's deeply ingrained in our society because it's a fundamental part of American development. White supremacy, whether you like to admit it or not, is a fundamental part of American development, just like capitalism is, okay? Whether it's manifest destiny or just straightforward systemic discrimination in the form of Jim Crow in the South and even Jim Crow in the North and like redlining and numerous other ways that black people were denied opportunities. White supremacy is a fundamental part of American society.
Most wealth in the United States is inherited and that millionaires are really only millionaires because their parents were millionaires. That really isn't true either. The vast majority of millionaires and billionaires are people whose parents were not millionaires and billionaires. Chris Hogan, who's a black financial expert, he did a survey of 10,000 people, and what he found was that of those 10,000 people, 74% of millennials believed millionaires inherited their money, 52% of baby boomers did, but only 21% of millionaires received any inheritance at all. Just
This is the dumbest talking point I've ever heard in my entire fucking life. When you are a millionaire, and I will talk about this from my own personal experience, okay? When you are a millionaire, the benefits of growing up in a fucking millionaire family isn't the immediate inheritance that you get from your millionaire parents. How many, like, has this guy ever even thought about for a brief moment of how you get inheritance? Like what? You think everyone is fucking running around and like expecting their parents to die off so they get money? At which point do you get money? If that's the case, in a country where the average life expectancy is what, 78 years old or 76 years old, then what? We're waiting for our millionaire parents to die off at the age of what? 50, 60? Is that when we're making our millions? No, you make your millions way before that. Holy shit. It's so dumb. At which point it's like winning the lottery. It's like saying, well, it's like looking at the number of lottery winners. Would Ben Shapiro perhaps admit that income mobility is significantly affected by centuries of slavery and also segregation for another century after slavery was abolished? Maybe that's have implicit biases that can be unlearned only when they admit that the social conditions have led to this. Ben Shapiro every single day attacks attacks that educational path that people could go on to understand what those implicit biases may be. Of race issue privilege victims? Ha, exactly. Culture is a substitute for race for gigantic white supremacist pussies who can't openly state that it's actually a racial issue. That's what you want to say, but you got to say, oh, it's black culture. Culture is dictated by the material conditions as well. What are you, 3 years old? White people consume, in totality, more rap music than black people do. Why the fuck aren't white people impacted by the cultural issues of the black community? They are the greatest exploiters then. They should be doing the same problems. They should be engaging the same fucking problems. Maybe it has something to do with over-policing those communities and the material conditions that they were subjected to for fucking generations. Shut the fuck up.
What that suggests, and this was confirmed by subsequent studies, is that the actual issue here is a question of class discrimination, not an issue of race discrimination.
You know, the famous West African last name Jefferson or Washington does not actually have any sort of cultural connotation You know, those famous West African last names like Jefferson and Washington, you know. Oh, wait, those were literally slave owner last names that were passed on to black people. Anyway, that's a completely separate point. It's frustrating. My man is trying to say it's class discrimination, not race discrimination. So what is the class signifier there?
What did you major in? What did you study? It turns out that people who major in education aren't going to do as well as people who major in engineering. According to research from the Center on Education.
Oh my fucking God, dude. Yo, why does this fucking liberal arts major constantly agitate for STEM lords? Well, probably because he knows most of these dipshits who don't understand how to read any of these fucking studies or have no background in social sciences are going to be dumber and take everything that Ben says at face value as though he is completely educated and smart about what the fuck he's talking about. What a psychotic, idiotic fucking take. What do we not need educators?
So, in other words, there are several confounding factors that are not being taken into account in this video. 1, what college did you go to? 2, what did you major in? And 3, what kind of job did you get afterward?
You can see evidence of systemic racism.
Wait, he talked about unemployment. He didn't talk about low wage. He talked about unemployment in the African American community. I get you disagree with him, but you're fully strawmanning him a lot. No, I'm not. He literally looked at a point where all other outcomes, all other points of view were adjusted. All other factors were adjusted, and it was exclusively the names for the same kind of job. His counter to that was, well, black people are going into different fields. He is the one who's doing straw manning. I am explaining how he's straw manning.
Affirmative action programs that exist at virtually every major university. In fact, their entire university systems, like the University of California, that have gotten rid of the SAT and the ACT as admissions criteria specifically because they weren't allowing enough minority students to attend.
What are some prejudices that you might...
For those of you who are talking about SAT and ACT, I will give you another example. If you're wealthy, you can get private tutoring that will give you a better outcome in the SATs. If you are wealthy, you can have more time to go and work on extracurriculars. Like, there is absolutely a better way that people that come from a wealthier background, there's absolutely a way where people from a wealthier background could get ahead even in that standardized system process, okay? Unless you think unless you literally have the 14-year-old brain who says shit like, oh, just go to the library and educate yourself. And it's the same as like being from a comfortable, affluent beginning where you have had all of this education fed to you. Unless you are stupid enough to think that way, then I don't know what to tell you in that circumstance, but you know.
As a result, we should support systemic changes that create more equal opportunities for everyone. Increasing public school funding and making it independent from property taxes would be a great start, so that poor and wealthy districts can receive equal access to resources.
The suggestion that simply pouring money into public schools is somehow going to be the solution has been belied by nearly every independent study ever done of public education. Obviously, we should be spending more on schools where not enough spending is going on, where there aren't school books.
Okay, I don't even know what the fuck's going on. I can't even focus on this anymore because all of you motherfuckers keep talking about the PlayStation event.
Make some interesting
Fuck you, dude. Fucking leave. Fucking leave. 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 Leave the fucking channel. Go somewhere else. Fuck. God damn it. You know what? Fuck this. You know what? Fuck this. I'm not watching the PlayStation event, and I'm not even fucking streaming. Fuck off. I mean, I'm not a big fan of Lil Wayne, even from a rap point of view. What is this? Teen angst? I can't even focus on this anymore because all of you motherfuckers keep talking about the PlayStation event. Fuck you, dude. Fucking leave. Fucking leave. Leave.
You don't love the spirit of justice.
Leave the fucking channel. Go somewhere else.
Devil.
When you left early yesterday, I accidentally found your debate with Jesse Lee Peterson. I now have brain cancer. How did you not full PS5 him?
God damn it. My real voice.
waiting for Hasan.